1:15. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Danushka Madhavala and read by Geethanjali Ramanayaka. The headlines. The demining process of Sri Lanka was lauded at the international meeting of Mine Action, National Directors and United Nations Advisors. ADB praises Sri Lanka's steady progress on economy and action plan. State Minister Ranjit Simbalapitiya has announced that a dedicated allocation of 10 billion rupees has been reserved for the elections. Japan offers a sonar vessel to Sri Lanka. The government makes a revolutionary move by granting free land rights to citizens. Sri Lanka's merchandise export improves in March. Foreign news: Israelis rally for hostage deal as ceasefire talks continue. The demining process of Sri Lanka has appreciated that the 27th International Meeting of Mine Action, National Directors and United Nations Advisors. The meeting, convened by the United Nations Interagency Coordination Group on Mine Action and co-hosted and co-organized with the Geneva International Center for Humanitarian Demining, took place in Geneva, Switzerland from the 29th of April to the 1st of May. The meeting provided an opportunity for leaders and experts to meet for 3 days to exchange and network on pressing issues faced by the mine action sector under the overarching theme Protecting Lives, Building Peace. Members from 130 countries participated in the event. The progress achieved by demining process was discussed in length in the meeting. Demining has been completed in 1,340.87 square kilometers of affected areas in Sri Lanka's northern and eastern provinces. Around 2.5 million had been found in the operation, and demining is said to be completed only in 23 square kilometers of the two provinces. Sri Lanka has worked out plans to become a mine-free nation by 2028. The Army and 4 local and international non-government organizations are involved in demining in the country. The Asian Development Bank has reiterated its unwavering, steadfast commitment to support Sri Lanka. The president of the ADB, Masatsugu Asakawa, has communicated this to the State Minister of Finance, Shahan Semasinga, during a discussion held on the sidelines of the ADB annual meeting in Tbilisi, Georgia. Posting on X, State Minister Semasinga stated that Mr. Asakawa also commended President Ranil Wickremesinghe and the government on the steady progress made on the economy and action plan published on the government's diagnostic report. During the discussion, Semasinga has highlighted reforms that have been implemented to enhance economic stability, foster growth and strengthen governance. Furthermore, the State Minister has discussed the progress of the debt restructuring process while indicating Sri Lanka's wish to reach out to the ADB to seek support for the implementation of the transformative initiatives as outlined in our Climate Prosperity Plan. State Minister for Plantations, Enterprise Reforms and Finance, Ranjit Simbalapitiya, has announced that a dedicated allocation of 10 billion rupees has been reserved for potential future elections. This provision, while not explicitly outlined in the budget proposals, has been included in the estimates. The State Minister said that the government is ready to release those funds at any time when necessary. But the Minister said that the Election Commission has the right to decide what election should be held first. But the Minister said that he preferred to hold the presidential elections first to decide who will be the next leader of the country. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Japanese Foreign Affairs Minister Yoko Kamikawa, currently on a 2-day official visit to the country, yesterday said that Japan intends to rapidly resume its existing yen loan projects in Sri Lanka. She was speaking at a joint media briefing alongside Foreign Minister Ali Sabri at the Foreign Affairs Ministry yesterday. She said Japan will resume all its yen loan projects in Sri Lanka after the Memorandum of Understanding on debt restructuring is signed and the government's intention to swiftly conclude a bilateral agreement. Japan is leading the international discussions on Sri Lanka's debt restructuring as the co-chair of the Official Creditor Committee. President Ranil Wickremesinghe hailed the government's decision to grant free land rights to the people as a groundbreaking step, emphasizing that no other nation has undertaken such a massive initiative to date. The President made these remarks while participating in the inaugural event for distributing freehold land deeds to Mahaveli settlers as part of the Urumaya program at Polonnaruwa Royal Central College yesterday, emphasizing the principle that as one section of the population benefits from the country's economy, another should not be left to suffer. The President underscored that the revolutionary initiative of granting free land titles was launched to uplift low-income individuals. He urged the people to actively participate in building the economy in collaboration with the government's agricultural modernization program, highlighting the potential for Polonnaruwa to become a key export district in the country. The President highlighted his achievement in swiftly stabilizing the country's economy with the help of one group despite inheriting a government initially opposed by all. He extended an invitation to all sectors to collaborate in bolstering the nation's economy over the next 2 to 3 years, aiming to secure a prosperous future for the youth. And that ends local news for now.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
The GCE O-level examination will commence tomorrow, May 6th, and conclude on May 15th. About 452,979 candidates will sit for the examination. Around 387,648 school students and 65,331 private candidates will sit the examination. The examination will be held at 3,527 centers, 535 coordination centers, and there will be special examination centers in Tangol, Jaffna, and the School for the Deaf and Blind in Ratmalana. This year, 730 children with special needs will sit the examination. The Commissioner General of Examinations, Amit Jayasundara, said that a special program will be implemented to check examination fraud. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
In Watchlight, the government has decided to restrict local pilgrims from visiting Sri Pada during the off-season. Only foreigners will be permitted to undertake the pilgrimage during this period. Accordingly, all local pilgrims and travellers will be barred from accessing the Sri Pada reserve via any route. The Sri Pada pilgrimage season is set to conclude on the 24th of this month, and that came to you in Watchlight. In world news, the headlines first. Israelis rally for hostage deal as ceasefire talks continue. Chinese President Xi set to visit 3 European nations and Panama to choose president after frontrunner sentenced. Tens of thousands of Israelis rallied late into the night calling for a deal to bring hostages home ahead of further ceasefire talks. Protesters in Tel Aviv chanted, "War is not holy, life is," with some accusing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for aiming to prolong the conflict. It came as Hamas delegation met mediators in Egypt yesterday. The group said there were no new developments but added a new round will begin today. Negotiators have resumed long-running negotiations in Cairo, brokered by Egypt and Qatar, on pausing Israel's offensive in Gaza in return for freeing hostages. The main sticking point appears to be whether the deal would be temporary or permanent. It is thought the wording being discussed involved a 40-day pause in fighting while hostages are released and the release of a number of Palestinian prisoners being held in Israeli jails. Chinese President Xi Jinping will hold talks with European leaders in 3 countries during a 6-day tour that begins today. Xi will travel to France, Serbia and Hungary. It will be the Chinese leader's first trip to Europe in 5 years. In France, Xi is scheduled to meet his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron. They will discuss bilateral relations and the situations in Ukraine and the Middle East. The visit will coincide with the 60th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between China and France. Xi is also expected to hold 3-way talks in France with Macron and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. There will be discussions with China-EU relations. The Chinese president is expected to meet President Alexander Vučić in Serbia. He will also meet Prime Minister Viktor Orban in Hungary. The leaders will discuss what has been achieved through China's Belt and Road Initiative. Panamanians are voting in a general election which has been overshadowed by the disqualification of the man who was leading in the polls. Ex-President Ricardo Martinelli was the favorite to win until he was banned from running after being found guilty of money laundering. His replacement on the ballot, José Raúl Mulino, is leading in the polls. Whoever wins most the votes in the round will be declared president and sworn in on July 1st. There are a total of 8 candidates competing for the presidency, and voters will also choose members of Panama's National Assembly. And back to the headlines of the world news. Israel is ready for hostage deal as ceasefire talks continue. Chinese President Xi set to visit 3 European nations, and Panama to choose president after frontrunner sentenced. And that ends world news.
Development news.
Foreign Affairs Minister Ali Sabri says that the country hopes to conclude debt restructuring in time for the 3rd tranche of the International Monetary Fund financial aid program. Speaking at a joint media briefing with his Japanese counterpart Yoko Kamikawa, Sabri said Sri Lanka is still working on stabilizing the economy, enhancing debt sustainability and implementing growth-oriented structural reform. Sabri also invited Japan to provide fresh investments in sectors such as power, infrastructure, including port and highway sectors, dedicated investment zones as well as green and digital economy. And that was development news.
Moving on with sports news.
The semi-final match of the T20 World Championship Cricket Tournament between Sri Lanka women and the UAE women's team will be held today at 9:30 p.m. Sri Lanka has secured victory over American women's team by 18 runs on Friday. And that was sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු ගීත හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Export Development Board says that Sri Lanka's merchandise export in March amounted to $1.14 billion as increase of 9.77% compared to the same month last year. The EDB said the export in March also increased by 7.51% compared to the previous month. The total export, including merchandise and services for the cited month, was recorded as $1.4 billion. And that was business news.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු ගීත හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
On to economic news. The annual meeting of the Asian Development Bank officially began in Georgia's capital Tbilisi yesterday. The ADB is committed to assisting countries in Asia and the Pacific by providing loans, grants and technical assistance for infrastructure and other projects. During the opening ceremony, ADB President Asakawa Matsugo noted the world's poorest and most vulnerable operations, including people in island nations, are suffering due to climate change, economic shocks and conflict. He stressed that no one should be denied the benefits of development. Asakawa said the bank is willing to increase the amount of assistance that it gives to island nations and others. And that was economic news.
Weather report.
Showers or thundershowers may occur at a few places in the western and Sabragama provinces and in the Galle and Matra district in the evening or night. The general public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damage caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thundershowers. That was the weather report, and prior to concluding, the headlines once again. The demining process of Sri Lanka was lauded at the International Meeting of Mine Action National Directors and United Nations Advisors. The ADB praises Sri Lanka's steady progress on economy and action plan. State Minister Ranjit Simhalapitiya has announced that a dedicated allocation of 10 billion rupees has been reserved for the elections. Japan offers Suna vessel to Sri Lanka. The government makes a revolutionary move by granting free land rights to the citizens. Sri Lanka's merchandise export improves in March. Foreign news: Israelis rally for hostage deal as ceasefire talks continue. With that, we end this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation, and handing over the microphone back to Heshma Samath on the other side this beautiful Sunday afternoon to keep you entertained. It's over to you, Heshma.